thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters and the mercy of the grand predecessor and predecessors for having this opportunity to give this topic. This is actually, we give this topic in the Dharma class, but so I kind of maybe change it a little slightly, So today we're going to talk about Tao and religion, and Tao and religion, how they're related in terms of, one is really the essence, the other is a function or manifestation or form, okay? So that's a main or an important concept to understand, this essence and function, all right? Okay. So, we can't talk about the Tao without using, Lao Tzu's, Tao Te Ching, because he says it very succinctly and very clearly. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name, right? So this, basically, anything that, if we try to describe it, if we try to ascribe certain qualities to it, it's incomplete. And therefore, we can't really describe the Tao in full, okay? At least not through words, all right? Not through language. So, ultimately, the Tao is something that we experience, that we live, okay? So it says, nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of myriad things. Okay, so even though we can't see it, we can't touch it, right? This Tao, it's the source of everything. Everything comes from it. Okay, even though you can say it has no form, but all forms arise from it. Right. So thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence, and constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. Right. The essence is something that with desire, basically using our human thought, our consciousness, to try to think about this Tao is very difficult, because again, our consciousness is limited, and so we have to essentially clear our mind, let our mind be still. When our mind is still, then we can see this Tao, we can observe this Tao, to see the true essence of it. Okay, so. But when there is desire, when there is essentially the function, which is our thoughts and desires, then we see what the Tao becomes, which is the manifestations, the forms. Yeah.
No, actually, one way to this is right? And everything, all the forms manifest.
Right.
Really, the qi really just means that when you have.
It's like an intention.
Yeah, intention. Yeah, when you have an intent, or your mind, you say something, then everything manifests. You get it? So that's why, just as 一念, you got the 念头. If you have a 念头, it really translates thought, okay, or thought. Desire, because desire comes from a thought, right? You have the desire, that's a type of thought, right? Desire is more specific. But if you have a thought, everything will exist. So that's why if you have no thought, it doesn't exist, right? Or no desire, no. Okay, so that's what very important. That's
okay. What exists is the forms or the manifestation. I mean, when you have no thought, doesn't mean that nothing exists. I mean, it's the potential is there. Okay, the potential is always there. That's like the energy. Energy, until the energy takes on a form, is manifested or transforms into matter, then you don't see it. Okay, all right. So same concept. So these two emerge together, but different in name. The unity is said to be the mystery, right? The mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. So that's why this Tao is so marvelous. So it's just unimaginable, right? Because it's just unimaginable that it is both this formless thing, and yet it is also all the forms. And so our conscious mind, our human mind is almost, you can say it's incapable of really comprehending that. So that's why it's called this mystery. Right. Okay, and then so the great Tao without form, giving birth to heaven and earth. Okay, so this is kind of repeat in the Purity and Stillness Sutra. Right, the great Tao is without preference, regulating the sun and moon. The great Tao is without name, nurturing everything in the cosmos. I don't know its name, addressing only as Tao. Right. But what he's saying also is that Tao or nature really has certain properties, has certain characteristics. They're principles, okay, these laws, what we call natural laws that govern the way it works, okay, the everything in the universe, everything in nature, how it works, okay. But it's not, it has no human sentiment, no human judgment, none of that, right? That's all human created, all right, man created. But nature is just, you can say, yeah, it has no bias, right? So talking about essence, function, right? So the essence, we can say like the Buddha is the essence, the Buddha or the Buddha nature, right? And then, so this is like actually the three treasures, right? And then the Dharma, the Sangha, which is really the function and manifestation of that. So, okay. And then so another way to look at essence and function is like stillness, right? In the state of stillness or no thought, right? There's nothing, but that is really the essence. And then when it's manifested, or the function is the motion or the action from that. Okay, so actually the Tao is like it's both of these. Okay, so it's not just the stillness or the Buddha, right? It incorporates all of it, or you can say like the motion and action stems from the stillness. It comes from the stillness. All right, so it's not just stillness or void where nothing happens, right? But there's something that can initiate. There's something that can initiate the action or motion.
One way to say it, one way to view it is that it's absolute.
Yeah.
This we call Tao, absolute. But then, because something's absolute, it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe absolute. I don't know. I mean, so that's why we say there is an essence and function. Okay, so that becomes dualism. So from the absolute, what we call oneness, we say oneness. That doesn't mean single one. It doesn't mean that. It just means it's all merged together to flow not. Okay, 本体跟功用是不纳体的这个道，it's that oneness. But then within this oneness comes duality. So that's the duality. 相对 or relativeness.
Well, this essence function is not duality yet. But this is the oneness. This is actually the oneness. This is a way to look at that oneness.
From that oneness comes this duality.
Yeah.
That's what
Right.
we're saying. And what we can see
Yeah.
is duality. What we can describe is the duality.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's hard to see this oneness as a whole. Okay. So just like the Tao Te Ching, right, is the Tao and the virtue. Okay, so the Tao being the essence and the virtue being the function of that Tao. Okay, or you can say also religion is in that the function side of it. All right, sincerity and virtues. As an example, Confucian. Confucianism, right, talks the five constants, right? Sincerity is the core, is the key to all the other virtues. Okay, so it's you can look at that as in this way too. Also, another way is principle and propriety, right? Li, the two Chinese characters Li. One is principle or truth, or the other one is actually the action, okay, based on that. So the function. And then so also we look at nature, right? Nature and the laws of nature. The laws of nature are how things function within the nature. So it's like really another way to talk about this is like the essence is like the body. Okay, it's like a human body or living organism. The living organism has functions, right? It does things. It breathes, it eats, whatever. All those functions. Those are all functions of the body. And you can't really separate the two, right? I mean, the body without function is useless. you can't have the functions without the body, right? Because the body is what gives rise to the functions. So that's kind of a way to look at it. So the Tao by itself is what we typically describe as being still or empty or void, but yet it has functions. Okay, so that's very important to key point to understand.
On the fourth point, right, principle, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's true. Propriety is more narrow, right? Specific.
Yeah, I mean,
You can say broader wisdom. You can say that principle and wisdom. Okay, so that's important too. Okay, principle and wisdom. Wisdom encompasses, you can say, all the functions, applications, etc. Okay.
yeah. All right. Okay, so the essence, right? So, this is from the Book of John, right? In the beginning, there was the Tao. It was actually the Word, but the Tao, right? So, and the Tao was with God, and the Tao was God. So, again, this is pointing to that unity, the oneness, right? But there are two things. There are two aspects, if you will, the Tao and God, but they are one. Okay, so and you can say that. You can say in this case that the God is the function aspect of it, okay, because it has the will, the thing that can initiate the force, okay. Right. So that essence again is that you can say it's just this tiny dot or this point, okay, and yet it's everywhere too. Okay, so it's not just a single point. We can tend to think of a point as a physical with a physical dimensions, but it's there's no dimension to it. It's dimensionless. Okay. And then so Confucius says, what heaven confers is called nature. So this whole of nature, accordance with this nature, is called the way or the Tao. Right? Cultivating the way is called, religion essentially. Okay, so that's kind of describes how the relationship between, so you have Tao and religion, and then nature. Nature is this whole. So this Tao, again, in the very beginning, there is no beginning actually. We tend to think again in terms of time, right, as a beginning and end, but there is no beginning and end, right? We cannot really refer to this as saying, oh, Tao had a beginning. There is no beginning, okay? All right. Okay, so then, something like the Force awakens, right? To borrow a movie title, right? So the Tao begets one, okay? So from there, right, because initially there was a state of stillness, right? A state of stillness, a state of void. But then something, right, awakened. You could say this force awakened, and Tao, what Lao Tzu would say, Tao begets one, okay? So one is something that, from zero you don't see. One is something, it's starting to manifest. What?
What is this one?
What is the one? The one, actually, 0 and 1, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's still a part of that essence. I mean, we still don't see the one, really, necessarily. But basically, then the next step is creating duality from unity. Okay, so one begets two. So the one begetting two, right? Basically, that is when you start having motion, action. Okay, so things start happening. You set in motion this whole thing. So just like the universe, how it gets created. Initially there was just this massive energy, and I don't know. There's God. There was something that initiated the Big Bang. Okay. And so that caused it to begin. Now, once you have this duality, there's an inherent duality in everything in nature, okay? Because it's all based on this duality. All right. So, and then including, reciprocity is an important concept or principle. Especially relating to humans, right? Do as you would have others do unto you, right? Do to others. Okay, that's that reciprocity rule. All right. But that also, it's you can say it's because of there's duality. And then so finally you get the 2 begets 3, right? Essence, function, and infinity. Okay, so this is really the form, starting to get the actual form of existence, right? And then so it's symbolized with the yin yang, the Tai Chi symbol. And so we can also see, in terms of the forms, right? There's like particle wave duality. There's lots of dualities in nature, right? And okay, so after that we get the manifestation of form. So 3 begets a myriad things. Actually, 3 represents everything. Actually, in the number 3, it's not necessarily you get 3 things, but yeah, there are 3. But 3 also represents everything. Okay, all things. And so this is kind of a cycle. So now we have, within this duality, there's a cycle for everything, right? So if we look at this cycle here, this is a cycle of the heavens, starting at the bottom, that's the beginning, right? So because the black is the yin, and so that is where you have the greatest, that's kind of at the beginning. All right, so the white part is the yang, so that's the start of, you can say, the birth and growth, right, phase, and it goes to the peak at the top, and then start declining, and then, start death again. So in terms of this is like the life cycle of, you can say, life, and as we know it here. Okay, so this is kind of how, everything will have a life cycle. It's just a question of different amount of time. Okay, the time frame is different. But, so every cycle, every form it follows a cycle. And also,
Galaxies,
right,
universe, humans, plants,
right,
animals, etc.
right. They all have their own cycles. And then you have cycles within cycles, okay? So each, the smaller cycles make up bigger cycles, all right? So, who knows now? I mean, this, in terms of, the Tao of the humans, this is 129,600 years. But, yeah, and then so how many of these cycles makes up the, the universal cycle? I don't know. I mean, that's a lot, okay? So, but, and then this can be broken down into smaller cycles, all right? But, okay, so the Tao is the root, the source, or the origin, or you can say it's also the principle, or the essence, okay? It's also the truth, which is never changing, all right? It's the origin of everything, okay? So it's this universal truth. The natural, it's also, you can say, what arises from it are the natural laws, the principles, all right, including cause and effect, right? That's also a law that comes about from this. Also, the Tao you can talk about as like there's a heaven's mandate, the mandate to pass on this Tao among humans, okay, and also the life force, right? The life that we have comes from this Tao, from the Buddha nature, okay. Religion, of course, is really all it is really teachings, based on those truths and principles, the teachings, the methods of practice. Okay, and so, okay, yeah. All right, so that's kind of the difference. But, of course, the religion is based on the truth, okay, the true principles. All right, and this is kind of, this is almost like the view, from the sixth patriarch, the body is what Sun Shu, the disciple of fifth patriarch, says, the body is the Bodhi tree, the mind is like a standard mirror bright. Time and again brush it clean and let no dust alight. So that is really the religious view. I mean, how religion is, where we practice, try to get better, right? Try to improve ourselves, morally and spiritually. But ultimately, it's still within this duality, okay, as you can see. And it's a gradual process, okay? Whereas the other view from Huineng is that, there really is no, I mean, he's talking really about the Buddha nature, that it doesn't get corrupted, okay? As humans, we get corrupted, but the Buddha nature itself does not get corrupted, right? So there is no Bodhi tree, there is no standard mirror bright, it's all void, so where can the dust alight? So that there is no need to cultivate the Buddha nature. It's already perfect, Okay, it's just a human aspect, a human nature aspect that we need to cultivate, right? So that
These two are very important concepts. The first one, when I talk about you have a form there,
Yeah.
right? And it's essential, you can see that. And then the six patriarchs, see everything is empty. So combine them together, you
Yeah.
can see the Buddha nature.
Right.
Yeah, combine together. This either one of them, they do not see the Buddha nature. They are
That
not-
becomes dualistic.
Yeah.
You can exactly combine together.
It's not good. That's not good.
But
Right.
It's essential. The first one basically tell us do the good things, right? And then don't have no motive when we do things. And also the other thing is everything comes, we deal with it, let it go. So with those stuff, we will not we cultivate as he said it. Okay, we will not may not go to heaven, but at least we don't have to become some adult. Which is up to you, right?
Yeah.
Hungry
Those,
Ghosts, ghosts in hell.
yeah.
Hell.
And-
Animals.
Okay, at least with the first one, will not the person who ever cultivate with him will not go back to heaven. At least with that,
The lower three.
yeah, you don't avoid, you can avoid that. So that's advantage in that. So just keep it. But combine them together, they become our Buddha nature.
Yeah, the true essence is both of these, okay? And because there is a manifestation, which is the form aspect too, right?
With the Tao.
Right.
It's both.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why he even though
Right.
Wei Ren said that, right?
Yeah.
他还是
没有界限，
Yeah,
跟他
yeah, yeah.
He's close, but he
realized his Buddha nature. Yeah, he's at the door. He's at the and then only that night when he talked to the Hongren, right, fifth patriarch,
Yeah.
when Buddha explained to him, he goes, "Whoa, that he did." And then he said those 6 sentences or 6 phrases. That's the proof. And that's
Right. Yeah, that's because back then they also had they thought that emptiness or void
Right,
is
it's the ultimate,
it. That's
right,
the
the
ultimate.
ultimate.
But it's not really that true.
That's-
It's not the
Sunyata
true
is
emptiness.
Not
Okay.
enough. It's really 真空妙.
It's actually it has to be this
真空妙.
marvelous
That's
marvelous
right.
emptiness.
Right.
You can say
Merge.
it's a marvelous emptiness.
Yeah, you can say.
Yeah, the Tathagata.
Tathagata.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So in practice, in religious practice, then of course, or in any kind of practice, actually, you have to kind of 3 different levels. So you have the lower vehicle, which is chanting the sutras. So this is kind of established over these thousands of years of religion, right? Where they do this kind of stuff. And today, you still have most people are still doing this practice. Okay. And the Tao goes beyond that. So the middle vehicle and the upper vehicle. So with the upper vehicle, the Tao practice, then we can actually attain Buddhahood. The other ones, they can't really attain Buddhahood. They just keep reincarnating, and you can get to higher levels, but still you're in this cycle. You can't break out of the cycle. And only when we see the Tao can we break out of the cycle, right? And actually become a Buddha, right?
Most people we are could be on the second one.
Yeah, a lot of people they do meditation, that kind of stuff too. That type of practice. Again, they're trying to, but they're they're still achieving like emptiness. They're trying to go for the
highest
emptiness,
level they would achieve is emptiness.
which is the non-form.
Yeah, all the teachers said meditation is good for our body. It's like that, okay? When we do the meditation, you can see a lot of people, they don't need to sleep that much. They only sleep 3-4 hours a day. I said, they have so much energy. But when we passed away, the function of meditation is gone. So when we die, it's gone. When we do get rid of all the activities, not raise a single thought, and we practice that with our Buddha nature. So even we're going to leave this world one day, the level we cultivate, we carry over, we stay with us, with our Buddha nature, no matter where we go. So that's the difference between meditation and get rid of all activity and not raise activity.
Yeah, because meditation is still it's a practice of a form. It's a practice of a
Yeah,
form.
another way to say is 无漏学，无漏的学是功，无漏功夫，right? 漏 right? Leaking. So even meditation is called a leaking. Okay? because it still has condition. 它是有限的
Yes.
It has condition. It's conditional. So the only way to have non-condition 无漏的 is what? Let go of any
Everything.
thoughts, let go of all affinities and have non-thoughts. That's it. That's it. Get it? So that's 无漏的，就是无限。
Let the Buddha nature arise.
People do the meditation. How do they do it? They do the meditation. They focus.
They're focused on something, still nothing.
Let everything go, right? Let everything go. So means nothing is left, right? Inside. But when means emptiness, right? Let go,
That's
right?
no Buddha nature.
Okay, that's what I want to say that. When we get rid of all the activities, you not raise the thing also, what's the difference? Means we do the we do pretty much this what giving to the meditation.
Very
But-
simple.
But the reader teacher also asked us, close eye 80%. Leave 20% open. Why? When we open 20% means our Buddha nature will stay inside.
Right. Still.
Okay, when we do the meditation, it's very dangerous
exists.
because the spirits could come out. Spirit could come out. Okay.
那是很糟的。
Okay. Then when you do the meditation, then do the get rid of all the activity, you know, raise the thing concept. When we close the eyes 80% means 20% stay inside. Means the Buddha nature still stay
That
inside.
you still maintain awareness.
Awareness.
of your
And
Buddha
then
nature.
you get rid of all the thought, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad. That means everything is gone. The last one who stay inside our body. That is our Buddha nature. So we need to find that one. That one will make us become Buddhas. Okay? And next level, we need to extend our Buddha nature to the outside. Like airplane pass through, right? Or car pass through. We don't have to worry about what kind of airplane. The car pass through, we don't have to think about this is truck or this is small car or not. Or somebody's talking there. We know that
We're just aware.
we
We're
hear the
aware.
noise, right? We don't need to get into the content of the conversation. So we extend our Buddha nature to that location. We need to practice that. So next level, after this level, let's develop level. Next level is even we do the do not raise the finger stop, don't get rid of all the affinity, do not raise the finger. Don't even think about this concept. Okay, next one in the future, don't even think about these two sentences. Right now, it's helping us to get there, right? And later on, we have to let it go.
That's that.
We have to
Even
get
let
rid of
that thought go.
Don't think, oh, I'm getting the all the affinity, do not raise the finger stop. Don't even think about that.
Yeah.
So when naturally, when
Yeah. How does? Yeah.
you
yeah,
get the next
yeah.
level, don't even have these two
It
sentences.
becomes natural.
Yeah, don't have these two sentences there. So that's next level. So I can see the
Becomes
naturally we
automatic.
talk about different level. Okay, so we need to.
Actually, really, that
Yeah.
way is the middle path. Because if you go focus on empty, that's one extreme too. That's another extreme, right? You're going to, I have. You're going to empty. That's extreme. So that's also wrong. See, 变成完空.
Yeah.
No, 完空 means vacuum, like literally nothingness. That's no Buddha nature even. So that's wrong. So that's extreme. That's 偏见. That's extreme. So that's wrong. So the method that Chinese Lin talked about is really 中, it's the middle path. You still have this Buddha nature, okay, this essence. So you have to have that awareness. Still, that the key is how do you get to that level?
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Teacher want us, sorry, take a few minutes. It's very important. This concept we need to start to do it. One thing teacher is talking about lecture they were talking about a lot of things we do it. Okay, we practice every day. We need to apply it. Okay, once we do it, not get rid of all the affinities, not raise the tingle stuff. Once we do that regularly, even with sleep, it will does by itself. It will do it by itself. So we need to get into the habit. Okay, that's why I try to do. I take a few minutes. You try to do it every minute. Okay, I have time 1 minute, I do 1 minute. I have time 5 minutes, I do 5 minutes. Once we get used to do that, when we sleep, it will do it by itself. So that's what nature is all. So once we extend this period longer and longer, that's what Buddha is all about. That's how Buddha become Buddha. So they extend the period as long as possible. Even they sleep, we sleep, it will do it by itself. So we should practice regularly. So just study the Buddha nature class is first step. If we don't practice that way, we will not get there. So we need to practice every day. Try it. 3 minutes, 1 minute, just close our eyes 80%. Let go all the right and wrong, all the stuff. Let go. And the Buddha nature will come out. and eventually we're gonna feel that energy. So we gotta practice. Okay, thank you.
One step at a time.
Yeah, one step
Yeah.
at a time. Practice that every day.
But the key is you have to
Everybody should
be
do that.
constant.
Yeah.
累
So
积嘛，
practice-
意思是累
oh,
积，
especially when new people.
积的习惯。
So do you want the lecturers do not quickly explain to him what to do, how to do every day.
Okay, close your eyes 80%.
80%. Yeah.
Use the tip of your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth. And you can start by saying, let go of all karma and affinity. Do not let one single thought arise. This is the beginning, you use that to help you. So don't think of anything. Once the thought comes in, you gradually, you eliminate it to no
Never.
thought, okay? So that's what you gotta practice every day, many, many times a day.
Yeah. In the mind, no good, no right, no wrong, no false. Just no good and no right, no bad. Just very pure, very empty. But Buddha nature, our spirit got to stay inside. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you want to be, you increase your awareness, but not your conscious awareness. It's the inner awareness, the Buddha nature awareness. We want to increase that, okay? And not use, because the problem is the conscious mind is always kind of taking over and preventing that Buddha nature awareness from expanding, okay? So if we get rid of the conscious mind, let go of the conscious mind, then the Buddha nature awareness can start to develop and expand.
When we do that in the beginning, when you start to do it, if we're gonna fall asleep. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So when we wake up, we will do it again. If time, it's easy to get sleep. Of course, it's fall asleep.
Yeah, I sleep all the time.
Right? Yeah. So once you do it, you're tired, you're gonna fall asleep. That's fine. Then once you wake again, do it again. Do that every day. Okay, every day.
Yeah.
Every time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very, this is the most important job we have to do with Buddha nature.
Yeah.
You have to practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So through that process, we can possibly, if we do it very well, we can achieve enlightenment. You can say that. Okay.
You can see the function coming out.
Right.
You become wiser too.
Yeah. Of course. We have. Yeah. I mean that's
Because your Buddha nature is taking over.
right. Okay. So that's mentioned here. But in everyday practice, of course, then it's also we practice what we call the Tao of humanity. Essentially what Confucius teaches about applying those virtues, okay, in everyday life, in our relationships with other people, okay. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so, all right, so let me talk about now the lineage of this Tao I'm going to mention briefly. Again, remember we saw that cycle. We're already past the peak, okay, so we're in that. And then this is looking at the green period, which is roughly, 4 or 5,000 years ago, okay, is when this Tao was propagated among humans. Now, before that, you can say when humanity reached its peak, okay, and after the peak is the decline. And so, people are no longer following their conscience, okay, no longer following their Buddha nature. So there's killing and all that. And then so after a while, then, the Tao, the reason why the Tao is made available is because of that. People have lost, you can say, lost their conscience. They no longer follow the conscience. Okay, so all right, so the first period would be the green period, right? So it's like the springtime, right? And during this period, okay, so the Tao is like, again, we use this analogy, the Tao is like the root of the tree, okay? So the root of the tree then gives rise to, then we have in the green periods, well, at least now, the two main religions that exist today from the green period are Hinduism and Judaism, okay? There were other beliefs and practices back then, but, none of them really lasted. They aren't here today. Okay, so this is again springtime. Okay, things are growing, right? And the religions, remember, it's the function of Tao, or manifestation, kind of a manifestation of the principles of Tao. They arise due to the affinity and the conditions, and so that's why, because the condition in India, the condition in the Middle East at the time, including culture, language, all that, are different. And those are the conditions under which these religions start. And therefore, on the surface, the religions will look different, will look a little different, okay? But they're still based, fundamentally on the same truth.
Some of the ancient religion would be like, that died out. Like
Yeah.
Egypt,
Yeah, right. Egypt's, the
Mesopotamia,
right, the Native American, the shamanism or whatever.
or Europeans, the what do you call those Druids,
Yeah.
Druids or whatever.
A lot of them
Stone
are
Age,
like basically
6,000 BC,
worshiping
yes.
nature, because that's all,
It's called no, that's the term, panism? No, something like that.
Yeah.
There's
but,
yeah.
yeah,
There's a term.
right. Okay, so, but yeah,
In
but,
previous life, we could be in different. We could be in religion.
yeah.
Maybe we were Egyptians.
Could be Buddhist. Could be monk. Who knows?
Yeah, but these religions, ancient religions, did not have like a prophet, like a leader, someone who's kind of started it per se. So okay, all right. So, but then comes after that period of time came the red period. Okay, yeah, I was going to mention the green period. They start basically the 13 patriarchs of Tao, okay, that they have the mandate from heaven to pass on this Tao, all right, and then so in the red period, then it transitioned, and those were the kings, okay, so and then in the red period there were 49 patriarch generations, okay, which is the past 3,000 years, all right, so those. It's like, the summer, so from spring passing into summer, right? Then you have the flowers blossoming, right? So then you have these are the major beliefs, I guess. You can say belief systems, Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, okay, during that period, all right? So again, they arose due to the conditions and affinities at that time, right? Now, so the Tao at that time, it always started or was in the religion at the time, okay, at the very beginning. But then later on,
The founders.
yeah, with the founders, I mean the prophets, whoever, because they had the Tao.
The
And
mandate too.
later on, of course, it kind of, you can say the mandate gets lost, okay, so the Tao stayed in Buddhism for the longest, okay, so it stayed for 49 generations, basically. And so that's why there's a long history, so that's why a lot of the Buddhist teachings are very closer to what we talk about in the Tao.
The 34 patriarchs of Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
28.
Oh, yeah, right.
34.
Yeah.
the
34, yeah,
49,
right.
34 patriarchs.
Right.
So that's why it's the long.
Yeah,
that's
right.
long lineage.
Long lineage in Buddhism, yeah,
Or long, this continuous lineage.
right. Okay, and then so, but then, all right, and then so, in religion then, so religion is basically teaching, it's using expedient or skillful means to teach. So basically, depending on the conditions and affinities, they teach the truth or the principles to them. But it's a gradual process of cultivation, right? So Taoism really is Wu Wei, talks about non-motivational action is the main concept there.
Or in accordance with nature.
Yeah,
The true
it's following, it's not, yeah,
not nature in the sense of the earth nature.
right,
not-
it's following the
not
Buddha
Mother
nature, you can say, yeah.
It's your true nature.
Right.
Follow the true
In Confucianism, right, it talks about, it's more down to earth, a little bit more, following humanity and the principle of reciprocity, right? Buddhism talks a lot about, compassion, and then Christianity, all brotherhood, which is similar. Islam is more about purity and righteousness, so you see that, you can see that how they applied it is to the extreme now.
Right,
But, yeah, okay.
Sharia law.
Right.
That stuff, yeah.
But these are all manifestations of the Tao. You can say the Tao, okay, the principles. All right. So in Confucianism, then, right, I mentioned sincerity was the key to the core of the virtues that Confucius talks about, right? So these, and then from these, you can say this then gives rise to like the 8 virtues, okay? So based on the relationships that people have. So we're not going to.
You can say another way of saying that these 5 constants are Confucius' perspective
Yeah.
of saying what the Buddha nature.
Yeah, the essence,
Nature has these qualities,
Right.
so you can call it qualities or attributes, right? Well, that was the 8th virtue.
Yeah, well, the 8 verse, yeah, it becomes the manifestation of it.
Yes, the manifestation. Right.
Right. But this is really the Tao, what Buddha, in the Flower Sermon, what Buddha, says here, where he holds a flower in front of his face and, only one disciple understood, right? Says, I possess the true Dharma eye, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, the subtle Dharma gate not found in words, but in a special transmission outside of the scriptures. All right, this I entrust to Mahakasyapa. So there's something special, whether it's the mandate that's being passed, it's passed through, it's not through words or anything like that. Just like the Tao, the true Tao that we receive is not passed through words, okay, that first treasure, right?
The first treasure.
Right.
Here is also, let's talk about this concept, very important concept. Remember, if I look here, this is the pen. Have you seen the pen? Who saw the pen? Yeah,
What's eye?
Your eyes saw the pen?
No,
Your
what's
eyes?
eye? Whose eye?
Whose eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's
It's not the ego. It's not the ego. It's the我.
Yeah,
想
because
还有我
we
见.
do have two things in ourselves. One is our physical body, the other one is our Buddha nature. Right? Without that Buddha nature, can we see the pen? No, right? So who saw that? With their body. People die. Their body, they also have
I
eyes.
have
Can they
to
see
jump
pen?
through this, because
No. How come the other eyes didn't see? Because our Buddha nature, we call Buddha
it's
nature,
taking time.
which is our original spirit.
I know.
Pure, innocent, original spirit. Buddha nature saw the pen. So without that spirit, original Buddha nature, we will not see.
No, the difference is this. The Buddha nature is aware of the pen.
Yeah.
Everything else is your conscious mind.
Right.
Okay, everything else, when you see blue, white, with the shape, that's all from your conscious mind. It's not your Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is aware there is something, there is a pen. That's it. That's your Buddha nature. That's your
And it
awareness.
filters down to your
Yeah,
conscious
everything
mind,
else that
cognitive mind.
is, yeah,
The cognitive
are thoughts.
See, one is awareness, just true awareness. And that's what Buddha is talking about. The marvelous mind of nirvana and the true form of the formless. Because it has no form. There's no form. Not even a mind, not even a conscious mind. Very important. That's what he calls it. The marvelous mind of nirvana. Right? It's not the marvelous mind of my conscious mind. No, not that. Get it?
All the masters, old days, how do they know it? Okay? You know how they do it? How they,
Yeah.
one master, next
Wink.
one, they just blink their
Wink.
eyes.
Yeah, wink.
I just blink my
Raise
eyes.
the eyebrow. Raise the eyebrow.
I already passed all
All the
the
teaching.
teaching to you.
Yeah.
But
But you don't realize.
I just blink my eyes. Who blink the eyes? My Buddha nature blink eyes, right? Without that Buddha nature,
Wink, wink.
I will not be able to blink the eyes.
Wink, wink.
Who saw your Buddha nature saw I blink the eyes, right? Right? Make sense? Everybody got the point?
No. That's very important.
就是我们的灵性，我们的活性看到这个人在
No,
身
because,
上
yeah, the problem is, when we say I'm aware, we're talking from the conscious level. Unfortunately, we're talking from our human mind level, not from the Buddha nature.
Beyond it.
Okay, because we have all these attachments to it. The thing that, oh, I know with knowledge, I know what this is, I know this. There's a duality there.
There's no
It's,
I.
yeah,
No I. You know, that's what it means.
They are teaching them.
Okay.
So that now,
right.
Marvelous mind of nirvana is not the ego I. It's not that. Okay? But people say, I see it. Well, that means a dead person has eyes, has a brain. They don't see anything. Because where's their ego? There's no more ego. See? So the ego's false. You get it?
so to keep it simple, right? Our Buddha nature see the blinking eyes,
Yes, so that's
see the
the ego.
flowers,
Yeah.
right? Without that Buddha nature, we won't see
Not the
that,
Atman.
right? So the key is, the reason I blink my eyes because my Buddha nature is blinking my eyes, not because my eyes are blinking my eyes, right? So that's very, very important concept.
Well, I mean, the Buddha nature is behind all the actions. It's behind everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's subtle, right. It's the way. It's the
It's really the underlying force, underlying intent, if you will, of everything.
Yeah, the Buddha nature empowers
Yeah.
your mind to or through your eyes to see or to hear, right? So without the Buddha nature, I don't care if you have you say I have ego, super ego.
明心，
It's useless.
明心，
Get it? So that's why it's very important.
Well, you can't have the ego without the Buddha nature. It arises from the Buddha nature. So
So the ego disappears when
The
you
Buddha-
die,
yeah.
right? Okay. So people say, be careful of that, right? That I, it's wrong because when you have the I, then you have that view of the ego.
yeah,
Get it? So that's not what Buddha meant by the marvelous mind and nirvana.
yeah,
Nirvana means eternal.
yeah.
No birth, no beginning, no end. So it's not the ego. So it's not the ego. Get it? So that's why it's very important, right? If people say, I, that's not wrong. That's not
Yeah.
right.
It's kind of similar to what, in the Gospel of Thomas, what Jesus is trying to find out from his disciples, who understands that concept, where, he asks, compare me to something, right? Compare me to what am I like, right? Right. It says, they say, you're a messenger, you're a philosopher. These are all talking about, these are not,
You are like the spring.
right. So, Thomas says, I can't describe you. So he realized there's something, it's greater than the forms, okay? And so that's what, so Jesus, is in essence transmitted the Tao to Thomas, basically. Okay. All right. So in Christianity, right, so Jesus talks about, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So that's somewhat equivalent to the three treasures, okay? The three, and then the baptism by fire and the Holy Spirit is essentially receiving Tao, right? The eye is the lamp of the body. That's the true Dharma eye that Buddha's talking about, right? The narrow gate and cross, the subtle Dharma gate that Buddha's talking. So these are basically the references to the same thing, the same truth, okay? Right? Okay, so Tao lineage, we're now in the white era, okay? So there are two patriarchal generations, and it started around 1905. Right, so the total, there's 64 generations of patriarchs, right? And let's see. All right,
Well,
so
the 2 is the last of the 18.
yeah, last of 18. Sorry, yeah, right. So right.
Right.
Yeah, so this is 17th and 18th, right? So we should know who they are because right now they are the Maitreya Buddha is the 17th was incarnation, incarnated as 17th patriarch. This Buddha is in charge of everything. So all the other Buddhas during this time listen to him. So he's like the one. He's like the one in charge. This Buddha is in charge. Okay. So even this 18th patriarch, the Jigong Buddha, they listen to him. Okay. So basically, they're under his
This man.
mandate. Right. So 18th patriarch again. Jigong Buddha and also Yarhui Bodhisattva. Okay, so they're the ones who are holy teachers. They're the one who transmit the Tao during this time, right, to us through the transmitting masters, of course. Right. Okay. So now the white period is what we call the fall or autumn period, right? So it's the harvest. So suppose the tree bears fruit, right, and bears seeds. And eventually they need to return back to the source, the origin, the Tao, right? So they return back to the ground, return back to the roots. So all religious practices eventually, basically what that really means is that people have been cultivating in these religions, they need to also receive the Tao, get to the Tao, receive the Tao, right? So, but then that's also based on all their affinity and conditions. So a lot of people, they're still in their religious practice and they're still cultivating at that lowest level. Even though the Tao is available right now, the time is still, they still don't have that affinity yet to be able to receive the Tao. They can only accept that low level of cultivation, the chanting and all that, right? So they have to wait until the next life, and then who knows how long before they have, they have to do enough merits to also, that's one of the conditions as well, so before they can receive the Tao, all right? But the Tao is available now to everyone, all right? As long as they meet the conditions and the affinity, okay?
Now, whether or not one will receive the Tao
Yeah,
is based on
right.
affinity, conditions,
Right.
etc.
So, so sixth patriarch, he says, right, the purpose of religious teaching is to transform and teach people. The purpose of Tao is to realize one's true Buddha nature, and it is only by mind-to-mind transmission. Again, so yeah, same what the Buddha said there, right? And our grand predecessor also says, right, the point we received called the Tao is without form. Everything else we talk about is religious teaching, right? Yeah. All right, so, the three treasures, the first treasure is really the true Tao transmission. The other two are like religious teachings, okay? All right. And then, so just again, religious practitioners, they still need to receive the Tao, okay? So this monk, right? So the monk also needs to receive the Tao. He receives the Tao. He's a Thai monk, yeah.
He's Thailand. He's from Thailand.
Yeah.
Is he the oldest person that ever lived?
I don't know. No, not ever, not ever.
Guinness Book of
In modern times, maybe modern times. The ancient people, they lived a long time, hundreds of years. Yeah, he should have passed away. Yeah. So all so. All right. There's no time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all right. So basically, there's no time left. So, time. Finish it? What? No, I can't finish. Let me see. Well, this is there's nothing.
A few minutes for my class.
Oh, okay. All right. So here's this. Basically, Holy Teacher says that the Tao that we are cultivating is to clear our sins, not so that we have no illness nor difficulties. Okay. So, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll spend a few minutes after the break to talk about this. All right. All right. So I just want to go through this. What this Tao, so the difference between Tao cultivation and religious cultivation, right? So this is what Holy Teacher is saying, that we have sins, karmic debts. We need to pay off our karmic debts. So through our cultivation, see the difference between, certainly a normal person practicing in a religion, cultivating a religion, will also perform merits the same way that we do. They can be performing the exact same merits. The problem is that their merits get turned into, you can say, karmic blessings in the future, okay? So, but our merits, when we perform those merits, it gets used to pay off our karmic debts because we have our, the Holy Teacher, Enlightening Master who can do that for us, right? So that's why, and we're not, the ultimate goal of our cultivation, receiving the Tao and cultivation is the ultimate goal is to become a Buddha, but at least to transcend the cycle of life and death, right? And so it's not to seek anything, like not having illnesses or difficulties in life, okay? These are worldly things, okay? So we're not really we don't want to seek those things. Because as soon as you seek those things, that creates karma. That causes the karma, the cause and effect that you continue to be in the cycle, right? Okay, so the Tao that we're cultivating is to give us wisdom and enlightenment, not so that we can enjoy smooth sailing, okay? So similar to the previous one, but our ultimate goal is to have wisdom, enlightenment, become a Buddha. And so once we become a Buddha, we are free to come and go, not be chained by karma and not, be free. Okay, the Tao that we're cultivating is to let us understand and realize the truth, not so that we can get whatever we pray for. Okay, so that's what a lot of people in religion, at least at the lower level too, that's what they're seeking. They're seeking some good fortune. Okay, and then so the Tao that we're cultivating is to resolve our karmic debts and return to heaven, not so that we can avoid misfortunes and calamities again. Although it's true that when we cultivate the Tao, we have merits and virtues that will, again, our Holy Teacher, Jigong Buddha, will help us, the Buddhas will help us to avoid certain calamities if possible. And the way that's done, again, is paying off our karmic debts. The reason why we have calamities is because of our karmic debts. So if we can pay off some of our karmic debts, then that'll reduce it, right? So ultimately, it's to let us transcend life and death, not so that we can live forever, right? Not in this world, right? You want to live forever? Yeah, you just keep reincarnating in this world. That's living forever in this world, right? So we don't want that. All right. Okay. So just briefly, the end here. It's, what Tao is on the left, and then religion kind of on the right. So Tao is the root, the absolute truth, the principle, eternal, right? Religion is kind of the branch of the tree. the external teachings, it's impermanent, right? Tao, within the Tao, the passage or the transmission of Tao, there is an authority which is given by heaven, and it's through these enlightening masters. Okay, they have this heavenly mandate. Religion, it's basically, like the Pope, he's elected by the bishops, right, or the cardinals, and so it's a human institution now, the churches, and then so merits are retained. They ultimately they pay off our karmic debts, but then whatever we have left is also retained as our part of our virtue, right? In religious practice, of course, people are seeking, because what they're seeking is some return, and so they're getting their merits that they perform then gets returned as karmic blessings. And also in the Tao practice, we can basically become a Buddha. If we really try hard, very hard, hard enough, we can become a Buddha in this one lifetime, okay? Whereas in religious practice, again, ultimately they still need to receive the Tao. So if they don't have the affinity yet, it's going to take them several lifetimes to build up that merit and affinity and their virtues to be able to receive the Tao, right? But then, by then, the Tao may not be available too. So there are several conditions that we got to meet. All right. So concluding, the root of religion is the Tao, but only because religion is widespread can everyone receive the Tao and attain salvation. So again, just like the Tao is the root of the tree, but without the branches, without the leaves, right? That tree is useless. Okay, so you can say that, you can say it's kind of useless. I mean, it doesn't do anything, right? So with the branches, the leaves, the bearing fruit, right, that completes the cycle of that tree. And so the Tao does need the religions, partly because, the Tao as in essence is invisible, it's hard to grasp, hard for people to understand, and that's why religions exist, to allow people to get a better understanding. Maybe not initially, just let them do good, get them on the right path, and then in terms of their conduct, their actions, and then it leads to the path of understanding. Once the understanding, then that can lead to enlightenment, right? So that's what the purpose, you can say, of religion is in relation to the Tao. The deliverer of salvation, right? Some religions, they have someone who kind of delivers the salvation to you. Is our enlightening master who can unlock that door to ultimate enlightenment. Okay, so transmitting that Tao, transmitting the first treasure to us, that is the one who can lead us to enlightenment. Okay, so religious cultivation based on faith and dogma. Again, just like if you talk to people in whatever religion they're in, they will say, their scripture is the truth, is the word of God or is the word of Buddha, that they can't deviate from that. But the problem is they take it very literally. A lot of times they take it very literally. And so, it's taken as dogma. Well, really, they're told that this is the truth, you have to believe it, okay? But in Tao cultivation, yes, we also have faith, but we have to have an awareness, our self-awareness, realization of our own true nature, okay, Buddha nature, that's internal, right? These scriptures that we still use these same scriptures, but we have to understand the true meaning, the essence behind it. Once we understand that, then we realize that all these words, these scriptures, are not the true teaching, not the true Dharma, right? It's all within us, the true nature, the Buddha nature, right? That's what we have to follow, essentially our conscience. Right. So religious cultivation is like following someone else's recipe, right? Because they kind of say, oh, these are the commandments, these are the precepts you follow, you practice. Ultimately, it's internal, right? We follow the internal precepts, the principles, the principles of like those 5 constants, those virtues we follow, and that is really the way to do it. And so, as a Tao cultivator, we also need to. So in other words, we don't blindly practice either. We don't blindly practice, and religion is basically blind practice. So we have to ultimately we get to understand.
Why is it blind practice?
Because they don't. Yeah.
They don't realize their self
Right.
nature. They just follow this is what the priest said.
Yeah.
This is what the Pope said, or this is what the Ayatollah said, or the Imam said that. See, that's blind faith. That's external. So it's all external.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I don't want to say all, but 99.9% of all religious practitioners is focused on the external part. They don't realize
Yeah.
that Buddha nature,
Right.
that self nature, not the ego, not the conscious I, but the unconscious I.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Right.
That's important.
So again, religious cultivation brings karmic blessings, whereas Tao cultivation changes our fate and allows us to transcend the cycle of life and death. So that's the ultimate goal. So there are many religions, but Tao is really the one and only, the highest and most marvelous true Dharma, true teaching, or the truth. Okay, it's the holy grail, really, of what people are seeking. Okay, so this is really the Tao, to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour, right? So that's really describing, that is the marvelousness of nature, marvelousness of the Tao, marvelousness of our Buddha nature, okay?
The last sentence or the last two, you can say
It's
in the
timeless.
moment.
Well, you can say, yeah, it's in the moment too.
There's no time.
Well, yeah, that's timeless.
In the
Yeah,
moment.
in the moment, yeah.
In the moment.
Yeah,
That's, to have someone to say this, it's almost like a Zen master.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
You would say, yeah.
So it's like, God, this is like very close. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
right? If you could say those words,
right,
you say, man, that guy's pretty enlightened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people would not say those
Right.
words. Would not utter those words. That's,
yeah.
okay?
So
It's in the moment. The last
right.
two phrases, whole eternity, and infinity. That's in the moment.
yeah,
There's no time. Never there's no time.
yeah. I mean,
Sounds-
in terms of the Buddha nature, I mean, it's just in the moment. There is no time, no beginning, no end, no past, present, okay, or future. It's just is in the moment, okay.
And when we say heaven in a wildflower, then it's all the
Everything
infinite forms,
is,
right?
yeah.
They're related. They're really one and the same.
Yeah.
Actually, that's also very Hua Yan Jing, Avatamsaka Sutra says that. Okay, a lot, but that's okay. That's okay.
Why we say it's a very right moment? Why? Because 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years later, the same.
Same, right? The essence is the same.
That's what timeless.
Doesn't change.
Okay, means eternity. That's
Or
why
you can say
nature
change
timeless.
less.
Yeah, yeah.
It's to be the same.
It's unconditional too. I mean, it's
Timeless,
unconditional,
non-dualistic,
right?
changeless. It's all that. It's the tathata.
Because it's not based on our human mind in the moment, because that it all carries with it all its biases and everything else with it and conditions. Whereas, yeah, in the moment is without all that either. It's just the Buddha nature.
Suchness.
It's just the suchness or thusness. Okay, the tathata. Yeah,
But the first two is very quiet, deep. It's like that. Avatamsaka. To see. So you can say one grain of sand is the same, or you can say it's related. It's part of this infinite universe.
yeah.
So you see a world. So by looking at one grain of sand, you realize, oh, there's infinite world. Or
Yeah.
just by looking at a drop of water, you can say there's infinite ocean.
Yeah.
You get it? So because the drop of water, isn't the ocean composed of zillions of drops of water? Same thing. Isn't all the infinite universe composed of zillions of grains of sand? Same
Well, it's
idea.
also the nature of that drop of water is the same as the nature of the
Right,
ocean. The
right.
nature, the essence is the same. The essence of all that is the
That's
same.
Very
That's what it's
Hua Yan
saying.
Jing. Okay, so you guys should study Hua Yan Jing, the first two sentences.
Okay.
That kind of summarizes the Hua Yan Jing's teaching. Well, one of the teachings. of Hua Yan
Okay, so all right, so that's it. I'm not going to take any more time from Gene. Thank you. All right. If I said anything wrong, I ask the Buddhists for forgiveness.